Good morning, students. So today I am taking a class on functions in C++. So first, what is function? So function is a block of code in any programming language which is used for special task to do. So a function basically are two types of functions, two categories of functions: user-defined functions and standard library functions. So in the slides I am going to discuss in details what is functions, content is definition of function, function calling, function definitions, void functions, American functions, local versus global variable, function call methods, concept of recursion, function overloading. So this, if you see definition of function, a function is a subprogram that acts on data and often returns a value. So we may say also in this way, function is a block of program which is uh, created for special purpose to do some special task. This is also function. So on returning values, function may two types. Some function return some value, and some function does not return anything. So if you see about function in C++, functions are invoked by a function call statement which is consists of its name and information, its needs, arguments. So for example, boss to worker analogy, if you see a boss, the calling and caller function asks a worker that call functions to perform the task and return result when it is done. So this is the main boss. So boss call worker function A, worker function B, worker function Z. And again function B call worker function B1, function B2. In this way you can see the hierarchy of functions. So function calling. Functions called by writing function name, argument, list of arguments. So function name, argument 1, argument 2. So example, cout square root of 900. So square root is a function. This is actually a library function. The preceding statement will be 30. Solve function in the mesh library returns a double. So function argument can be constant, so square 9, variable, so single variable, expression, so this and this, so many ways. Now function calling, so calling or invoking a function, so square x, parenthesis an operator used to call function, so parameter argument x, pass the argument x, function gets its own copy of arguments, so after finish passes back results. So function name square root argument 9, output is 3, so parenthesis we can close the argument. So this is the how we call functions. Now functions modularize a program, so software usability, call function multiple times. So these are the advantages of functions. So we can modularize the functions and we can break up a large huge program into some small functions. Software usability, which is one of advantage of functions, and function call can be calling in multiple times based on the necessity. So local variables. So local variables known only in the function in which they are defined. So all variables declared in function definition are local variables. Parameters. So local variables passes the function when called provide outside the informations are parameters. So function definitions, function prototype. Function prototype tells compiler argument types and return type of functions. For example, integer square integer. This function takes an integer and returns an integer. So this is the function prototype. Similarly, calling or invoking a function. So suppose square x, parenthesis, an operator is used to call function. So pass argument x, function gets its own copy of arguments. After finish, it passes back result. So function definition. So function, suppose example integer square integer y. So return y into y. So return keyword is used, returns data, and control goes to function's caller. If no data to return, use if no data to return, use return. So function ends when its right presses. So control goes to caller. Function cannot be defined out inside other functions. So if we see this program, simple program. So this is the previous character. This is the function prototype. Function prototype specifies data type of arguments and return value. Square expect and design return integer. So integer main. So for loop integer x less than this x plus plus. So square x, and also this is the main functions, and this is the function which are defined to find out the square value. So integer square integer y, return y star y. This calculate the square of the value. This is how maximum, if we want to calculate maximum value for three input numbers, then we using functions, then you see into the string that is double maximum, double this. These are main, so double three numbers are double, so you're entering values, and the number, this is the function call maximum number one, number two, number 10, and so return. Now the function definitions, if we see double max equal to x, assume x is the largest. If y greater than max, then max equal to y, and if z is greater than max, then max equal to z, return max. So here we calculate the maximum and we call here. This way you can define functions. Function prototype. Function prototype contains function name, parameters, number and data types, return types, void if returns nothing, only needed if function definition after function call. So prototype must match function definition. So function prototype should be matched with the function definitions. So void function takes argument. So if the function does not return a result, it is called void function. So void function does not return anything. So if we see this example, so clear void. Here this is the function product void add two numbers in this main integer we enter the value in the call function call is add two number and return zero. So void number two in this intersection is integer x plus integer y equal x plus this statement. So void function take no arguments. If the function does not take arguments specified with the empty list or right for inside. So it is void function a, function b void. So main will be the same in all cases. If we write here void also and nothing, then it does not do anything. So this concept, this is the same meaning. Remarks on functions. So local variables known only in a function in which they are defined. All variables declared inside the functions are local variable. Parameters. Local variable passes to function when call passing parameters. Variables defined outside and before function main called global variables, so can be accessible and used anywhere in the entire program. So local versus global variables. Suppose we give some examples. Suppose integer xy, this is global variables, and integer add to integer, this is the function prototype. So integer main integer s, x equal to 11, y equal to 20. So see our global x, global y, xy. So add s at x y cout x plus y equal to this, and then here integer at integer x and y1, so here local variables integer x equal to 44, so cout local x and return x plus 1. So how we use local and global variable. Function call method. So function call method, there are two types: call by value. A copy of value is passed. Call by reference, the caller passes the address of the value. So call by value. Up to this point, all calls we have seen are call by value. A copy of value known is passed from caller function to call functions. In a sense, to the copy does not affect the original value in the caller function. So advantage: prevent side effects resulting in a reliable software. Now call by reference, we introduce reference parameter to perform call by reference. The caller gives the call functions the ability to directly access the caller's value and to modify it. A reference parameter is an alias for its corresponding argument, so it is stated in C++ by flow the parameter type in the function prototype by an ampersand, so also in the function definition header. So advantage: performance, void function name type ampersand this, so main function name type parameter name. So if we see the examples of this, is integer square value type value functions call by value, and this is called by reference functions. So integer main, integer x, use it for, so this is modified, this is modified. So we see how difference is happening. So recursion and recursive function. Main calls another function normal. A function calls another function too is normal. A function calls itself is also possible, and it is the term used recursion. A recursive function is one that called itself. So concept of recursion: a recursive function is called to solve a problem. The function knows how to solve only simplest cases, or so-called base cases. Thus, if the function called with a base case, it simply returns a result. But if it is called with more complex problem, the function divides the problem into two conceptual pieces. One knows how to do, another does not know what to do. The second case piece must be resemble the original problem, but be a slightly simpler, smaller versions of the original problem. So function overloading. Function overloading: functions with same name and different parameters should perform similar tasks. For example, integer square integer x, float square float x. So these are the same name with different data types, different parameters. So a call time C++ compiler selects the proper function by examining the number, type, and order of the parameters. So remember. Thanks. So next we'll meet with another topics.